this video, I'm breaking down my entire process to travel filmmaking, from the initial idea to how I plan and shoot, all the way to the edit. I'm Bryce Way, director and cinematographer focused on travel and commercial filmmaking. I've traveled across multiple continents around the world, and in this video, I'm going to pull back the curtain on my creative process and approach to travel filmmaking, from the very first idea all the way to the final grade. Before I get into the specifics, I want to talk about how I think about a travel film at the highest level, because I think this is where most people skip ahead too fast. For me, every film starts with one question. What do I want the audience to feel when this is over? Not what do I want them to see, but what do I want them to feel? That answer shapes every other question after it. The music I choose, the characters I pick, what story I'm telling. For example, on a project I shot out in Kenya with Sigma, we were trying to capture the relationship between humans and the landscape itself, bringing the history of the Maasai into the film. The feeling I was chasing was inspiration, that sense that the land has a story older than any of us and you're just a small part of it. Everything I captured was in service of that one idea. It's the same process on every project. The feeling changes, the execution changes, but the question never does. So before anything else, find what you want to make your audience feel. Once I know the feeling and story I'm trying to tell, I'll go in the Milano and build out a mood board. I'll pull reference images, color palettes, locations I want to hit, specific shots I have in my head. It all goes in one place. This isn't about having a rigid shot list. It's more about having a visual brief, so when you're there on location, you're not there questioning yourself at sunrise, what shots am I gonna get? You already know and you're ready to go. Pre-production is just as important as the production itself, as it dictates how smoothly production will be executed on that day. The more work you put in beforehand, the less decision-making and thinking you're gonna have to be doing on set. So when you're traveling overseas, you might not have access to all of your gear depending on the project scale, so I'm gonna keep this light because gear doesn't really matter all too much, but because I get asked constantly, here's what I shoot with. So my main camera is a Sony A1. The reason I shoot Sony is because of the low light and hybrid capabilities. I can move between stills and video seamlessly without switching camera bodies. On a travel shoot, when you're moving fast and the light is changing, that flexibility is everything. Another thing I like to do is have a second camera body on hand with another lens, so I never have to swap lenses back and forth on the field. Some of the lenses that never leave my bag is a 16-35 that captures all of the wide landscape scenes I need, a 24-70, a 70-200, and my personal favorite, a 35-1.4 prime. The 35 is the one I reach for the most. It sits closest to the human eye, and it's that sweet spot between wide and tight, and it forces me to be intentional with my framing. And the low aperture on the 35-1.4 gives you that shallow depth of field that I love for travel work. So a lot of my travel work is actually solo. It's just me and a tripod, and I think that's one of the best ways you can develop as a filmmaker because it forces you to be intentional and creative with your shots. But when I am traveling, a tripod is non-negotiable. I'll often start on a tripod to nail the frame and decide whether or not I want to introduce movement later. So one technique I love to use while traveling is the use of magic arms. They create an incredible dynamic POV shot of any item you attach them to. These are the type of shots that stop the user from scrolling. You can mount them to other camera bodies, lenses, luggage, anything you could think of. On smaller projects where you don't have a full grip and lighting team, you have to learn to work with what's already there. Natural light isn't a limitation, it's your best tool if you know how to use it. One thing I look for almost every time is backlighting. Placing your subject between you and the light source, it separates your subject from the background in a way that feels cinematic without any fancy equipment. Always remember to shoot into the shadow side, that's where a lot of the depth and separation is created. Working with natural light means chasing the right time of day, sunrise or sunset. Everybody knows it, but it's for good reason. That quality of light does something to a landscape that no artificial source can replicate. Planning your shoot around it is one of the best things you can do for your image. So when I'm out shooting with a group or directing, the whole dynamic shifts. Now I'm not just thinking about the shot, I'm thinking about the person in the shot, and that's a completely different skill set. The biggest thing I've learned while shooting other people is that the best moments are almost never the ones you plan for. You set up the frame, you give direction, but you keep the cameras rolling. Approach it like you're shooting a doc. A lot of those real moments come from when they think the cameras are off. Composition is another big factor into anything I create, and it's something I think about constantly on location. Every frame should have a reason for the subject placement, a reason for what's in the foreground, a reason for where the horizon sits. The rule of thirds is the foundation everything else is built on. Split your frame into a 3x3 grid and place your subject on one of those intersection points. It creates a natural tension the eye has somewhere to travel. That said, I use dead center framing just as much. It's a way of saying, this is the main character, the difference is intention. In landscape work, I'm always looking for layers. Something in the foreground, your subject in the midground, then layers behind them. That's what makes a frame feel three-dimensional on a two-dimensional screen. And something that nobody really talks about is the use of negative space. Sometimes the most powerful thing in the frame is what isn't there. Having more headroom and lowering your horizon can create an incredible image. For example, having a very small subject in a vast landscape. This is a technique used by multiple cinematographers in Hollywood, and it really creates an incredible image that I think you should implement into your travel films. Music is probably one of the most underrated parts of a travel film. Most people treat it as something you add at the end. I like to challenge you to treat it as a part of your creative process from the start. I try to find music that already has an emotional arc I want the film to have, building towards the movement, then I structure the edit around that arc rather than cutting the music to fit the edit. And don't be afraid to use multiple songs in a project. It can help hold the viewer's attention and also give you the flexibility to shift the emotional arcs across different sections of your film. Sound design is the layer that most filmmakers skip, and it's what separates a video from a film. It's actually my favorite part of the editing process, as it's what makes the image come alive. Be creative with it. Some of the sounds I use to match the image have nothing to do with what's actually in the frame, but they work because you create the right feeling. I also always record ambient sound on every shoot. Even if I think I won't use it, a minute of location sound can completely transform a sequence in the edit. So one of my first steps when editing is going through everything and creating the beginning, middle, and end. That way I can know the length and where my film is building towards. I build multiple different sequences, playing around with what flows and experimenting by moving shots around. The thing I think about the most is visual flow. If something in the frame is moving right, that next frame should continue the movement or deliberately break it. Every cut should be intentional. A big thing is also using risers in your sound design, building tension in the sound to keep the viewer engaged and carry them towards the next moment. So one of my favorite editing techniques is the match cut. The match cut is when you cut between two shots that look very similar, so the transition feels seamless and intentional rather than just a straight cut. The key is thinking about the edit while you're shooting, because you're trying to match a frame to a moment that hasn't happened yet. When it works, it creates this feeling of continuity that pulls the viewer deeper into the film. The first step of color grading is shooting in the right color profile. Find the profile that gives you the flattest image with the most dynamic range. That's your starting point for everything that comes after. I shoot S-Log3 on Sony to maximize the dynamic range and flexibility in post. My process in DaVinci Resolve starts with a technical base. I convert from log to Rec 709 using a LUT as a starting point. Then I correct for exposure and white balance shot by shot. Every shot gets individual attention before I even think about a creative look. Then I develop the look for the film. The grade has to serve the feeling I set out to create from the very beginning. All of it is in service of that original emotional intention. So that's my full process from start to finish, from the initial idea all the way to the final grade. Travel filmmaking isn't about the gear you have or the places you go. You don't need a crazy camera setup to tell a story. It's about being intentional about every step of the way. If you want to follow along for upcoming projects, feel free to subscribe here, or you could follow my Instagram for a deeper look into my travels. I'll see you in the next one.